I'm Hale Irwin, and this is my U.S. Open. And approaching 1974 U.S. Open probably wasn't any different than any other year because we didn't know what was awaiting us till we got on the grounds at Wingfoot. And after the first practice round, players saw what was ahead of them, and boy, many of them just sunk. The doom and gloom in the locker room was palpable. It was unbelievable. The 73 Open played at Oakmont that Johnny Miller had won with a final round 63. I don't think the USGA wanted to see scoring like that again.
He doesn't have a single 5 on his scorecard. He missed only one fairway, hit every green, and made 9 birdies. 63, the lowest round in Open history.
Well, I think Sandy Tatum always had the best interests of golf and USGA. I don't think he ever pushed something that he didn't feel in his heart.
We aren't trying to humiliate the best players in the world. We're simply trying to identify who they are.
I think that's been the mantra of the USGA through all these years, is to identify the best players and make them execute from the driver right on down to the short game. And I don't disagree with that one bit. I applaud it, as a matter of fact. Did they push Wingfoot over the top? Perhaps. That's okay. They've done it other places too, and perhaps they didn't push it hard enough at other places, so it evens out. We can't get used to having it easy. Then you don't identify the best. We had a course that was extremely penalizing rough. It had good length to it back before the power became what it is today. We had greens that were firm. All the ingredients you'd want to have in a difficult golf course, Wingfoot presented us. And I can remember saying to myself, if you just make a bunch of pars, those are going to be like birdies. Everyone's going to make bogeys. There's no doubt everyone's going to make bogeys. So if you can just control yourself, all you have to do is beat 30% of the field because the other 70% have checked out already.
The 1974 Open Championship. The course is causing plenty of anguish early. The greens are slick and the ball keeps rolling.
That was playing quite well. And you say, well, if you're playing well, why don't you shoot 67 or 60? Well, you can't. It just wasn't going to happen at Wingfoot. So I was very, very happy after round 2.
Hale Irwin holds out at 18 for 70.
Well, when you have a scoreboard like that with Ray Floyd and Gary Player and Arnold Palmer, I'm trying to tell myself, will they know who Hale Irwin is? Probably not. But you can't get caught up in all of that. There were some giants in the game, but were they going to try harder than I? No. Were they going to do something different than I? Perhaps. And we'll just see at the end of the day what happens. Going into the third round, I just felt like, okay, I'm in this just as much as anybody else. This course, while it doesn't fit any of our games, it might fit mine a bit more. All I have to do is control myself and not worry about anybody else. Just control my game and make sure that you just don't beat yourself. When you're playing in these big tournaments, the one thing you can't do is have those double bogeys, because you'll never make up for a double bogey with enough birdies on a course like Wingfoot.
Irwin hits to the green of 16.
A moment or two in time on Saturday, which I think was very important, was I had such a good finish that really turned my outlook around a lot, and birdieing 16.
He's got it, a birdie.
Birdieing 17 and making a good pitch and putt at 18 for par.
A good chip shot gives him a chance for a par. With 1 round to go, Tom Watson leads. Irwin is just 1 shot behind, and Arnold Palmer trails by 3.
I finished on a very high note versus, let's say, if I shot the same score but went bogey, you're going to feel a lot different than if you go birdie. So finishing the way I did really gave me a big push going into the Sunday round. We all know the last round of any U.S. Open tends to be the hardest. But I'm thinking to myself, can it get any harder than it's already been? Only if I let it. You have to look at it from the standpoint of, this is something that I've been looking forward to for a lot of years. I'm in the mix. I've got an opportunity to go out and perform and perhaps win my first major championship, and one that I've held in great esteem, the US Open Championship.
At the fourth, the jitters start catching the leaders.
Both Tom and I three-putted the fourth hole. And while you don't ever want to do that, I just told myself that this is not the last time this is going to happen. You're building a sandcastle, a wave comes in, knocks it down. Well, okay, you go back, you build another one. Here comes another wave. Well, that's the way it was. It was back and forth, back and forth. I just didn't let myself get upset with making some mistakes early, because we were all making them. You know, it's funny, sometimes you look at putts like that and you see a line. You see it. Now, why don't you see it all the time? I don't know, but I can remember kind of seeing this line. It's almost as if somebody had taken a chalk line and put it out there. This one for me was probably one of the defining moments in my career, certainly my early part of my career, was if I could get this putt close, or for that matter, perhaps a miracle it would go in, to seize the lead, get the lead going to the last 9 holes.
Brilliant putt.
Making the turn at 1 over with a difficult 9 in front of me and the lead, sure, give me the lead. I don't care if I'm 83 over par, give me the lead. I'll take that anytime. If I play my game, they have to come and catch me. Now, did I play the game I wanted to the back 9? We all make mistakes.
Hale fails to get his par, but keeps his lead.
On the back 9 of a major championship, under those conditions, I'll take that.
Irwin gets another birdie.
I think just from the confidence and the psychological perspective, it was an extremely big putt. With the lead and a relatively short birdie putt, you're saying, okay, let's knock this down, because you got some very difficult holes ahead of you, because the scoreboards weren't plentiful. You didn't know exactly where you stood at any point in time. So I felt like knocking this down was a have to make sure to maintain that lead, because the holes ahead were going to be very difficult, and that, I think, gave me a bit of a cushion, a confidence cushion, let's put it that way.
He needs this putt to give himself a little breathing room. I'm sure it's getting a little stuffy out there.
Okay, the lead is down to 1.
No one was immune from making bogeys. I just didn't want to make one of those god-awful double bogeys or more, where you did shoot yourself in the foot and had no chance. Well, when we get to 17, I did not know how I stood. All I knew is that I had driven it in just into the left rough. It wasn't the first time I'd driven it in the rough that week. Hopefully it'd be the last. I think more often than not, when you see some of the players that we've known through the years that have achieved greatness in some way, shape, or form, they find a way to do it. They find a way to get it done. Okay, fine. This is what I'm going to do. My third shot will be this. My putt will be that, and hopefully that will work. So I knew that it was going to be a 3-shot par 4. As you can see, take a pretty good swing at it. And again, the idea is to try and keep it under the hole. Keep it to where you're not putting downhill. And that's exactly what I did. I had a putt that I could look at and perhaps make to maintain what I hoped was a 1-shot lead at the time.
It's in, and look at Irwin. He's breathing easily. Even a bogey will win the Open.
Probably one of the best putts I've ever made in my entire career, given the circumstances. And the thought process was hardly any. Couldn't think at the time. It was just hang on, see what you could get in, and take your chances. And that putt going in was elation from my perspective.
All right, now, 448 yards away, Hale Irwin, the leader, who made that great putt at 17. He is 7 over, leading by 2. The final hole.
When I walked to this tee, Marshall informed me I had a 2-shot lead, but I told myself, don't believe it. Let's just say you've got no lead or 1. So it's imperative, absolutely imperative, put this drive in the fairway. So I was delighted after contact to look up and see that ball going down the right center of the fairway, right where I wanted it to be. The 18th hole was just so hard that even from the fairway, it did not make the second shot any easier. To the right of the green was diabolical. You just could not miss this green to the right. It was very, very heavy rough. When I looked up and saw the fly of the ball coming in just slightly left to right with the wind blowing it right over the top of the flag, there was, well, that says it all right there. It was one of the best shots I think I've ever hit in my entire career.
Absolutely like a champion ought to do it.
Hale Irwin right on the flag here at the home hole.
Now walking up, I could see the board, and I did have a 2-shot lead. So I knew, notwithstanding some terrible circumstance, I was going to win my first U.S. Open. I was very proud of this moment, simply because the U.S. Open's importance in my life was really singular. The U.S. Open became the tournament that was most important to me. This was something that I've wanted since I was a little boy.
We'll see in a second.
You indicated he had birdied 9, 11, 14, and ever so sweet. There it is, the United States Open champion. There goes the ball.
When you have something like that happen, something that you've dreamt about, something that is so important to your career, there's a burden that's gone, but it's replaced by something very uplifting, a very proud moment. It's probably the single most difficult course that you can pick to play. The setup was as hard as it could possibly be.
You got to be the happiest man in town right there, and deservedly so. 287 playing under these conditions is just terrific.
Wing-footed, kicked our butts all over the place, but I got the final say and achieved greatness. Unashamedly very proud of that, and I always will be.